Greetings and welcome to another edition of Caring About Seniors. I am your host, Adrienne Houghton. Now, each week, as you know, I sit down with Oasis Senior Advisors Jacksonville and we discuss all aspects of senior living. Today, I am joined by Al Bagocious from Oasis and Dave Roberts from Beach House Assisted Living, and he's the Sales and Marketing Director, so hopefully he's going to tell us all about the wonderful Beach House. Welcome.
Well, thank you, Adrienne. How are you today?
I'm very well. Welcome, Al. Good to see you again.
Thank you.
So, it's a difficult situation going into assisted living. Mm-hmm. When is the right time to talk about it?
Well, what I'll tell you is what I tell people is there's a proactive approach and a reactive approach. We always like the proactive approach. Mom's starting to slow down. It's time to kind of make a decision. Versus the reactive approach. Mom had a stroke. Now she's in a nursing home getting rehab, and it's time to look. Okay, so, that's generally the right time is looking at the proactive approach.
And it's like, well, is it when they're a set age? Is it when you start noticing things around the house? I mean, proactive, that's great, but, I'm almost 68 years old, and I don't want to even think about assisted living, but maybe this is the time I should be.
Well, a lot of times we see it when an individual has been married, recently lost their spouse or a loved one, and now they're getting to the point to where they want, they're realizing it's hard to cook for one. The house is a lot more to care for. It makes it tough on that angle. Well, then the kids start to realize that too. Mom's losing weight. She's not eating as well. Starting to notice mom's forgetting some things. That's when that we get the phone call most of the time.
Yeah. And Al, I mean, you've been dealing with Dave for a while now.
Right.
You have the same situation. It's much easier to deal with proactively than it is reactively, although you do have those situations.
Mm-hmm. And we're really coming up on a wonderful barometer this weekend, and that's Easter weekend, where families get together. We get to see mom and dad, see how they're doing, and really everybody's all together. It's a good time for a family huddle and really decide what's the next step. And I ask and I beg and I plead, follow up with mom and dad the week after Easter, because they're on their best behavior and they're trying so hard to please everybody. They're not showing you their real selves. And if you give them some food in their refrigerator and it's still sitting in that refrigerator a week later when you see them, that's a recipe for some real problems with foodborne infections.
Yes, of course.
One thing we see a lot of is, when they're on the phone with their daughter that may live in Boston, they say, hey, honey, I'm doing great, because they don't want their daughter to really know what's going on. And when the daughter comes in town for Easter, she sees that there's more cat food than there is food for her mother to consume. And that's when we get the phone call, or Al gets the phone call.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Golly. Now, I hear there's a big demand for memory care. And you also, not only is it assisted living, but you have memory care facility. Tell me about that.
So memory care, from what people say and what a lot of people think, is just because my dad has Alzheimer's or dementia, he needs a memory care setting. Well, that's not always the case at the beginning stages. They can live in an assisted living setting and be monitored, but in the memory care setting, once they get to those more moderate to advanced stages, that's where you want them to be, because there's a lot more hands-on care. It's a smaller setting because there's a lot of changes that occur in the brain that we don't understand as they start to get dementia and Alzheimer's. For instance, the word bathroom or restroom goes out the window. They don't know what that means. But if you put a picture of a toilet on a door, they'll know that that's the right place. A lot of memory care and Alzheimer's residents will not walk into a door that's shut because they're scared what's on the other side. Back in the 80s and 70s, or 80s and early 90s, they did a lot of construction in hospitals and removed those old tile floors that were white and black checkerboard, because what they realized was Alzheimer's patients would only walk on the white tiles because they thought the black tiles were holes.
Oh my goodness.
So these are things that we learn in the business, and through all the study and research and constant training that Al goes through, I go through, and most of us in the healthcare industry go through to learn this stuff, because you'd never think about that.
And there's a number of different strains of memory loss, isn't there? It's not just Alzheimer's, although everyone always says Alzheimer's because it's the most frequently said, I think. But there's Lewy body, and there's so many more, and they all have different aspects, don't they?
They do, but ultimately none of it is actually determined. You know, Alzheimer's cannot officially be diagnosed until post-mortem. The reason being, doctors make a diagnosis of it, but it's under suspicion. They technically don't know until they look at the brain post-mortem and see the decay and the plaques and all that stuff.
Right.
But they can set it as senile dementia, or, you know, this. We think this is all. I mean, there's signs and symptoms, but you technically really don't know until post-mortem.
Right. So first of all, tell us, where is Beach House? I mean, it should be on the beach. I mean, that's, you know.
So we're at 1315 2nd Avenue North, located in Jack's Beach.
Right.
One thing that's a little different with us is we're a hidden gem. We're located in a neighborhood. So if you know where Penman Road is, you have Penman Park right next to the Coast Guard station. We're tucked right next door. So when we walk out our front door and we look, we see the neighbor cutting their grass or washing their car. We don't see, you know, just droves of traffic going down a main intersection or a main road.
How nice, how nice. So what services do you offer? What are all of the services that you offer?
So we mainly offer assisted living and memory care. And with those, you know, there's things that we provide. Some of the things that we provide are activities of daily living, which is bathing, dressing, toileting, grooming, those type of things, assistance with medications, okay? Those are all on the care side. But some of the base services that are included at Beach House is all your utilities. So the only utility you have to worry about is your phone. Some people like a cell phone, some people like a landline. Dealing with this generation, you know, most of them like a landline still. So, you know, we have to deal with that. But Wi-Fi is included, cable. Our cable is closed circuit, and it was actually picked by our residents. So we have channels that me, being a 45-year-old man, that I may not particularly like, but my 84-year-old residents love it. Yeah. So we've got 2 Western channels for them and all kinds of fun stuff.
So what's actually included in the basic rent?
So the basic rent includes 3 meals a day in a restaurant-style dining room where you order from a menu. You have weekly housekeeping. They'll come in and clean your room for you. Laundry services. They'll do 2 loads of linens a week for you. They'll fold it, put it back away for you, so that makes it nice, as well as electricity, water, sewer, trash, cable, and Wi-Fi.
Oh my goodness. Now you've got different levels of care that you offer to people. Would you like to explain a little bit about that?
So our levels of care are determined by a nursing assessment. Our nurses go out and meet with the potential resident, but ultimately we have to follow what's called an 1823 form. We are governed by the state of Florida, and that is a form that's filled out by their physician. And it's a history and physical. So it tells us head to toe what's going on with you. And then we determine our care based on that. But we do have 4 levels of care. So some with just a very minimal amount of care. And then we have more people that need a lot higher acuity.
Right. Yeah. And Al, I mean, you obviously have people that need to be housed. And when you take them along there, do you suggest that they sort of spend a day there and see how they like it, or how does it work?
The way that I like to do it most is schedule a lunch for the tour. So they come in, they can talk to the other residents, talk to the staff. And frankly, a senior will move in or move out depending on how good the food is. That's
Are you serious?
serious.
As simple as that?
Yep. I just wrote a blog, and you know I do a lot of blogs for seniors here. I wrote a blog on ice cream today and all of the brain benefits of eating ice cream. So you'll see all the senior communities, they'll have ice cream socials and things of that sort. That is a wonder drug for breaking the isolation, breaking the ice, and making the seniors feel good.
Yeah, so it's all about that. Dave, what do you want people to know about Beach House that makes it stand out from other places?
One of the biggest things that we offer, Jacksonville is such a military community. There's a benefit that folks get from the VA, and it's called the aid and attendance benefit, but that's not what I'm talking about. We at Beach House, we give a 10% discount to our veterans and their spouses. So if they show us a DD 214 of a husband that passed away, we'll give you 10% off your monthly rent, and that's off your base rent. So that's something that I can tell you. I've been in this business for 24 years, and out of all the different communities I've never worked at, I've never seen anybody offer that. And with having as many naval bases as we have, and military veterans in the area, it's a good service.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And what would you say, Al, is the sort of final words for people out there who are considering, that sounds like it might be the right place for me? I mean, there's a lot of things to be taken into consideration, but
it is, and the fact that a little bit of history, the Beach House used to be a women's center many years ago, so it's really people centered, and the many times that I have been there, all the staff is engaged with their residents, and that's really a big plus.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for coming in. I
Absolutely.
Really appreciate it, and good luck with the future, because now we're coming out of the pandemic. Hopefully everyone's able to connect once more and to tour and to feel a lot more comfortable. And
Absolutely.
I'm sure you've noticed the change.
We have been very busy with folks. Absolutely.
Fantastic. Thanks, Dave. Thanks,
Thank
Al.
you.
And don't forget, if you'd like to know any more information about Beach House Assisted Living and Memory Care, you can also find it on iwannabuzz.com. Look forward to seeing you again on Caring About Seniors.
If all you need is socialization and you're still fairly independent, then there's 3, 4, 5 of these that really would fit that bill. But you tell me, I've got Parkinson's, I've got a progressive situation that is going to, I have these needs now and it's going to be progressive. I'm going to need more things in the future. Or there's a catheter involved or a feeding tube. I mean, all these clinical things will narrow the stage. Some communities can handle feeding tubes, many can't. Some communities can handle catheters, many can't. So tell me what's in your clinical future, and then I'll tell you the best places that have the best reputation for care and the best stability in their nursing staff that I will feel confident putting in a very difficult clinical situation. So tell me your needs, and I'll tell you what my favorite is. We are local. We are your local experts in senior housing. We have taken the time to personally set foot in just about every licensed senior community in Northeast Florida. And not just, be there, but also pay attention to, is the same staff there, or are they having turnover? Are the residents smiling? Are they happy? Are they interacting with the staff? And what is the culture? What is the personality? There's a lot of intangibles that we pick up on and remember when it's time to match a client with the right community. The intangibles are as important as the tangibles. And I think that sets us apart in that intimate personal knowledge of the communities in Northeast Florida. We are local. We are your local experts in senior housing. We have taken the time to personally set foot in just about every licensed senior community in Northeast Florida. I think that sets us apart in that intimate personal knowledge of the communities in Northeast Florida.
Greetings and welcome to another edition of Caring About Seniors. I am your host, Adrienne Houghton. Now, each week I sit down with Oasis Senior Advisors Jacksonville and we discuss all aspects of senior living. Today, joining me from Oasis is Al Bagocious, and our guest is Dr. Christine Caulfield from LSF Health Systems. Welcome.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You know, we each week, Al and I sit down and we talk to a number of different people about a number of different things, and we very rarely have doctors on, so it is a pleasure to have you here. Can you tell us a little bit really about LSF Health Systems?
Yes, I sure will. LSF Health Systems is the second largest managing entity in the state. And a lot of people really don't understand or know about
what is a managing entity.
Exactly.
Yes.
And there are 7 in the state, and we are charged through a contract with the Department of Children and Families to serve individuals that live with mental health and substance use disorders that are indigent, uninsured, or underinsured. And we serve these individuals through a network. We have 23 county regions. So we serve these individuals through our 62 provider organization network that provides services, psychiatric services, substance abuse treatment services, all types of services for individuals, children through seniors that live with mental health and substance use disorders.
Wow. I mean, I would think, especially over the last few years with the pandemic, it's been at a peak. Have you noticed?
Absolutely. It really has been such a devastating experience, particularly for our seniors, with the isolation, inability to connect, the loneliness. There's been such an increase in depression and anxiety with our seniors. And, you know, seniors, a lot of people don't know this, but males age 60 and older have a very high risk for suicide. And the fastest growing population for completed suicides are males aged 75 to 85. So we really are concerned about ensuring that our seniors reach out, their caregivers, if they're concerned, reach out and get some support and some help for this depression, for this extreme isolation.
Al, you obviously come across people and can refer them to Dr. Caulfield. How much have you seen over the last few years?
More than I care to.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of isolation, like Dr. Caulfield said, and the beauty of it all it takes is a conversation. Try to connect. Try to talk to them. And we had one guest here named Hank. Hank and I connect 10 o'clock every morning via text because his wife is now in a skilled nursing with dementia. He's worried about his own health, so we connect every day. And I have several seniors that I connect, stop by and see, help them.
So important.
Yes, and we're not meant to be alone. We're meant to be in groups. We're a social people. So to be isolated, and even if they're in a residential home, do you see that in the residential homes as well? That the isolation, because they're not necessarily mixing with everyone else, are they?
No.
No, especially if they're depressed. They tend to isolate in their rooms. And if they don't have family members, loved ones, friends like Al to check in, it really has been very impactful. And during the pandemic, the alcohol sales have increased 55%.
Wow.
So people are
It's probably down to me.
people are using
Yes.
alcohol and sometimes other drugs to cope with their anxiety, with their depression. And unfortunately, alcohol is a depressant. So you're really escalating the symptomology of that depression when you drink. So there's so many complex issues that.
Now, it's interesting you say that about alcohol, but do you think that people were turning to it because they can't go out to a restaurant, they couldn't go to a bar, they can't mix with people in general? So instead of it being turning to alcohol for a support mechanism, it was to make it feel as though it was part of normal life.
Some people do. Yes,
Yeah.
some people have chosen that route because that's what they used to do. Meet friends at bars and restaurants and have cocktails and happy hour. And so sort of setting that up in their own home.
It's like, this is easy. I can do this now.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Oh, what a shame. So in general, the patients that you see are seniors, or is it across the board?
Across the board. Children's,
Really?
adolescents, adults, and seniors, families.
Yeah. We've been talking predominantly about isolation, but when you're talking about isolation within the family, that can be a different aspect altogether because maybe they haven't spent that much time together.
Right.
A 24-hour situation. How do you deal with that? How do you get to them? How do you find these people?
Yes, it's a challenge sometimes. Sometimes our seniors have burned bridges, for example, and they're all alone because their family ties have been severed. That's so tragic. Sometimes their loved ones live out of state. And remember, with the pandemic, people were afraid to fly. People weren't allowed to come into the hospitals, to the nursing homes, to the residential facilities. So there was such a break in connection, particularly for our seniors, and it's really had some very deleterious effects.
What do you think? What do you think is the way forward? What do you think we need to be getting out there, saying to people to help the situation?
I think a real important message is that you're not alone and you do not have to struggle and suffer. There are various organizations that are available to help with therapy, with medication management if that's necessary. So there's no need to struggle. Some of our providers have in-home, on-site, providing these very necessary types of services. So the senior doesn't even have to leave their home. A therapist will come and visit them and talk with them. So important to really reach out. It's a sign of strength, actually.
Yeah. One of the things that I've done with my seniors that have family like in Atlanta, Georgia, is that when I visit them, I would open up my phone and we do FaceTime. So don't ever underestimate the technology portion that helps us with the connection, because that FaceTime makes all the difference in the world. And the technology side is really blossoming in the senior communities. That's almost as important as the activities director, because the up-and-coming seniors are more technology savvy and they want to stay connected, and we want to make sure that the ones that aren't at the moment, that we can tutor them into that proficiency.
Yes.
So.
It's a big difference between actually seeing somebody than listening to them, because you can also see how they are. Because they may be able to disguise something in their voice, but you can't necessarily disguise it if you're looking at them.
Well, that hits home directly for me, because I had 8 days with my twin 7-year-old grandchildren that I didn't see for 2.5 years because of the pandemic, and they came down from Chicago, and it was just an exhilarating time. And just imagine how us grandparents feel when that happens. It's a beautiful thing.
Yes.
So.
Now, LSF Health Systems has a training institute.
Yes.
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so proud of our training institute. We have a team of trainers that help our provider network stay on top of best practice protocols clinical protocols. We also are in the community raising awareness on very important topics like the opioid epidemic, suicide prevention, so many other topics that people need to know more about. We also go into other states and train businesses, helping the corporations understand, for example, with our training mental health first aid, that if a customer comes in and is having struggles or a crisis, their staff can be able to recognize it and know what to do. So we really wrap our arms around our provider network, around our communities, around our corporations, and really try to raise awareness on very important issues in the behavioral health care spectrum.
Do you have volunteers that work for you?
We do. We have some volunteers that are able to really assist. We're very grateful for their help and support. A lot of times they have had experiences with loved ones and they want to give back. And so we really welcome their help and support.
And what do you think is in the future for LSF?
You know, we're very excited because this year we have had a banner year. The legislature has really understood and recognized the devastating effects of the pandemic and how important it is to have access and services available for individuals that are struggling with behavioral health care issues. So they have put in the budget $126 million new recurring dollars to help individuals, help increase our access, help increase our service lines so that we can better help our Floridians that are struggling.
And if somebody wants to get hold of you, if somebody's watching this and says, you know, this rings home, how do they find you?
You know, we have an access to care line at LSF Health Systems that's manned 24/7 by our clinical division. So a real live person will answer the phone 24/7 days a week. And you can call that number, 1-877-229-9098, and someone will help you connect to the community resources that best suit your needs or your loved one's needs.
Thank you for doing everything that you're doing. I mean, it's so necessary nowadays, more than before.
Yes,
so
indeed.
It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you and find out a little bit more about LSF Health Systems.
Thank you so much for having me.
And don't forget, if you'd like to know anything more about any of our Caring About Seniors programs, you can also find it on iwannabuzz.com. See you next week.